Welcome to the Writer Reads Short Stories. This is Of Heart and Hearth, Part 2. The kitten curled up in the palm of his hand, and his mother smiled knowingly. Yardley gave her a desperate look. "I'm sure one of the students can find a home for her." The kitten sank its tiny fangs into the meaty part of his thumb. "I don't think he likes being mistaken for a girl," his mother crooned. The kitten gave a tiny growl, its tail lashing as it wrapped its paws around his hand and tightened its jaws. Yardley raised it to eye level, twisting his hand so he could meet its gaze. "Do you mind?" he asked. The kitten froze, and he continued, "I'm rather attached to that hand, and I need it for my wand." The kitten gave a tiny growl and lashed its tail twice more. Then it reluctantly released its jaws and drew itself into a prim and proper sitting position, regarding him with the bluest of eyes. "I wonder where you came from," he murmured. "You were so far up the tree, it's like you fell off a broom or something." He paused. "Is that why the ravens were out?" The kitten froze, its stare unblinking. Then it crouched on his hand, curled its tail along its body, and lowered its head to its forepaws. Yardley studied it. "You don't like ravens?" he asked. The kitten's fur bristled, its tail feathering into a bottle brush. It hissed and spat, claws extending. Yardley moved to the long oak table standing in the center of the kitchen and pulled out one of the hand-carved chairs. Easing himself into it, he set his hand on the table. "I'll take that as a no," he said, letting the mildest of frowns crease his brow. "And I won't tell them where you are." The kitten retracted its claws and sat up on his palm, flicking its tail twice more before wrapping it neatly around its forepaws. Yardley studied it some more. It was awfully composed for such a little and very lost cat. His mother came to stand beside him. The kitten watched her warily, its whiskers twitching. The very tip of its tail twitched too. "He's too young to have been taken as a witch's cat," she said. The kitten laid his ears back, opening its jaws in a silent hiss. "I see." Yardley's mother sniffed disapprovingly. "Well, attitude or not, I suppose you're hungry?" The kitten stilled, looking from Yardley to his mother and back. His mother laughed. "He wants to know why you didn't think of that." Because I got distracted," Yardley suggested. The kitten sneezed. It sounded like a criticism to Yardley. "I still have some condensed milk in the cupboard," he said. "I never did get around to trying that caramel tart recipe." His mother pursed her lips in disapproval, since it had been her recipe, but Yardley hadn't finished. "And there's yogurt and eggs in the fridge." The kitten made a face, and he stared at it. "What? They're all good ingredients for emergency kitty formula?" The kitten pulled back its head, showing its tongue like it was trying to clear something nasty from its mouth. Yardley widened his eyes and raised his eyebrows. "I see," he said. "So you're trying to tell me you'd rather some of my stew instead." The kitten closed its mouth, sniffed the air, then glanced hopefully at the pot. After another careful sniff, it flicked its tail and mewed hopefully. Then it rose and stepped off his hand onto the table. Yardley laughed. "Well, you do have teeth," he told it, "so I'm guessing you're over 3 or 4 weeks old." The kitten laid back its ears, its tail swiping the air in irritation. "Now don't go trying to tell me you're much older," Yardley said, "because if you are, you're small for your age and kind of scrawny." The kitten spat, but Yardley ignored it. He pushed out of his seat and moved to the cupboard. "What do you think?" he asked his mother. "We feed it stew and then try for a little formula?" His mother had stopped, one hand on the partially opened refrigerator door. "Personally, I think you're wasting your time with any kind of formula, emergency or not," she said, "and that's probably a good thing. If there's a witch looking for this little gentleman, then buying kitten formula would be a dead giveaway." "So you're saying I shouldn't be putting out found notices?" Yardley asked. "No!" his mother snapped, just as the kitten gave a loud protesting mew. "Well, fine then." Yardley pulled 3 bowls from the overhead cabinet and glanced at his mother. "I take it you're staying for dinner?" She took a bottle of milk from the fridge, then closed the door. "6 dinners, 7 breakfasts, and all the meals in between," she told him, and caught the look on his face. "Now don't look at me like that. I did text you. Told you about that little fracas on the quay." Yardley's face heated. Someone had texted him in the middle of a class when no one was supposed to have their phones. His students had thought it hilarious, and he'd made a show of locking his phone in his desk's top drawer. "What's good for the geese is good for the gander," he'd told them, and then spent the rest of the class explaining the origin of not only that saying, but several others. It hadn't been a bad way to pass an English class leading up to the term break. "Where is your phone?" his mother asked, and Yardley's heart sank. I left it in the classroom," he told her. "After locking it in my desk in front of the class," he thought, worry souring his gut. "What's to bet one of the little devils is trying to decrypt my password as we speak?" "It's not that kind of a school," his inner voice reminded him. "You left those days behind you, remember?" The sourness abated and some of his tension eased. His inner voice was right, but still, kids would be kids, right? And he'd handed them an opportunity on a golden platter. His mother snickered. "Well, at least there's some hope of it still being there in the morning," she told him, then gestured toward the window. "Weather like this should keep the little rodents inside." And by that Yardley didn't think she meant inside the classroom, but safe inside at home. He wondered how many of them would be in class the next day, and guessed it depended on the deluge. Not everyone's parents had a car, and not everyone's parents could hold off driving to work long enough to make a school drop-off. Outside, the thunder crashed and the scent of ozone filled the air. Yardley looked toward the kitten and found it looking straight back. "You good here?" he asked, and it mewed, looking pointedly at the bowls lined up on the bench. When it was sure it had his attention, it mewed again. "Slave driver," he muttered, lifting the ladle and taking the lid off the pot. The kitten purred loud enough to be heard through the next roll of thunder, and his mother laughed, setting a cutting board, butter, bread, and a knife at the end of the table. "I'll butter the bread," she told them, and the kitten purred louder. His mother shook the knife in its direction. "Not for you. Butter isn't good for kitties, and I don't want to clean up after it goes through you." The kitten wrinkled its face in a half-hearted hiss. "A crust of bread shouldn't hurt him, though," Yardley suggested. "A tiny bit of crust," his mother agreed, "but no more, and definitely no butter." "No," Yardley agreed, ladling a scoop of stew into a bowl and setting it aside. The kitten mewed pathetically. "It's too hot," he told it. "Meow, meow, meow," all beggary and protest.